My dad's name lit up my phone for the fifth time that day, buzzing against the glass desk I bought the week after landing my first six-figure job. I didn't answer. I hadn't picked up the other 4 calls either. The skyline outside my apartment window sparkled under the Chicago sun, all steel and ambition. Nothing like the red dirt and silence I grew up with in Oklahoma. I let it go to voicemail again and slid the phone across the desk. Then my email dinged. Subject line, urgent, wedding. From Thomas Reynolds' law office. Message, your brother needs you. Last chance I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The second that message hit, my phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail from my dad. I didn't want to listen, but I did. Your brother's wedding is in 2 weeks, he said, his voice sharp and cold. If you don't show up, don't expect another dime. I leaned back in my chair, stared at the phone like it had slapped me. That voice, it hadn't changed. Still felt like I was 13, caught sneaking out, getting lectured for having dreams that didn't match theirs. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I laughed, bitter and low. Not because it was funny, because I knew exactly what this was. They didn't want me there to support Evan. They wanted me there to look good. A full family photo. Proof we were still something close to functional. I got up, walked over to my bedroom closet, and reached behind the old winter coats. My degree was still in there, Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, top 10% of my class. I'd hidden it the day I moved here, because back home, they made it clear I didn't deserve it. Couldn't even finish community college the first time, Dad had said. You're not built for this stuff. I opened my bank app. 143 grand and change. I'd lived cheap, worked smart, and stacked enough to quit if I wanted to. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their money. But I booked a first-class ticket to Oklahoma anyway. Not for them. For me. They were finally going to see who I was and what they threw away. The wheels crunched over the same gravel I used to bike on as a kid, back when I still thought this house could be something close to home. Now, it looked like a wedding catalog threw up all over it. White ribbons on the porch columns, floral arches over the walkway, a giant tent pitched in the backyard with a fleet of catering vans and luxury SUVs jammed up the drive. I parked behind a Lexus and didn't even make it to the door before it swung open. My mom stood there with that tight-lipped smile she used when strangers were around. Well, she said, giving me a one-armed hug like I was a distant cousin. Decided to support your brother, huh? Before I could answer, she was already turning back inside. The air smelled like vanilla candles and money, that too clean, two-stage scent you get at overpriced spas. Inside, the living room was covered in wedding binders and tulle. Dad didn't even look up before handing me a clipboard. Fold these programs. ASAP, he said, like I was a damn intern. I didn't argue. I sat down and started folding. Evan showed up a minute later, pacing in his tux pants and a white tee, phone to his ear, rattling off some nonsense about lighting angles and boutonniere placement. I said navy, not midnight blue. God, is that hard? He snapped, stomping into the kitchen. His fiancée, Danielle, leaned over the upstairs railing in full glam, holding a glass of white wine like she was judging a competition. Oh, good, she said, spotting me. You can handle the gift table flow. Make sure it's intuitive, but elevated. No one explained what that meant. That night, I got shoved into a seat next to the happy couple for dinner. Rehearsal dinner, technically, at some steakhouse Dad rented out. Danielle clinked her glass. You haven't met Mason yet. Mason slid into the seat across from me like he owned the place. Slick suit, perfect teeth, Rolex just loose enough to flex. Crypto's booming right now, he said before I even asked. Timing's everything. I nodded, chewed my steak, and waited. So, I said, how are you handling transaction security? With all the cross-border stuff and compliance? His smile flickered. Well, we diversify, keep it agile. It's a decentralized model. That's not what I asked. He shifted, drank his wine. It's proprietary. Trust me, this kind of return doesn't happen unless you know how to move. Dad shot me a look across the table, that same glare from high school. Stop embarrassing us. Right, I said, wiping my mouth. Because trusting strangers with vague business plans always works out. Mason just chuckled and leaned toward Evan, whispering something that made him laugh. Danielle giggled like it was her full-time job. My steak turned to ash in my mouth. Nobody asked what I was working on. Nobody asked how life in Chicago was. Nobody cared. I was here to fold paper and shut up. But Mason? Mason had their full attention, and my gut was screaming at me, loud, steady, and impossible to ignore. The next morning, Danielle cornered me in the hallway with a big fake smile and a clipboard full of color-coded chaos. "We're short linens." "Check Dad's office closet." I didn't answer. I just went. The office smelled like old printer ink and cologne, same as always. I opened the closet, reached past a stack of dusty guest towels, and yanked out a box labeled Spring Decor. Inside, no linens, just a mess of file folders and loose receipts. Right on top, thick manila envelope, the name of the local credit union printed in bold, refinancing paperwork, fresh mortgage, $210,000, signed 3 weeks ago. I checked the date twice to be sure. My stomach dropped. I heard voices drifting from the dining room just down the hall. My mom's tone was tight. "You mortgaged the house again without even asking me?" Dad didn't miss a beat. "Mason's guaranteeing 20% returns. It's how wealth is built. Guaranteeing." That word hit me like a slap. No legit investor says that. Not one. I folded the envelope shut, shoved it under my arm, and walked out the back door without saying a word. Aunt Ruth was standing by the garden beds, smoking like the world was ending. Her heels sank into the dirt, but she didn't care. "He's running a scam," she said the second she saw my face. I stopped walking. "You too?" She nodded, flicking ash. "My neighbor up in Tulsa, guy named Don, lost 40 grand to someone just like him. Slick smile, fake company, gone overnight." I pulled the envelope out and handed it to her. She didn't even flinch. "They're not going to listen to me," I said. She took a long drag, eyes on the sky. "You're the only one in that house who knows what the hell they're doing. You figure it out. You always do." That night, I sat cross-legged on the guest bed with my laptop, headphones in, door locked. I started digging. Mason Locke. No LLCS registered in Oklahoma under that name. No business website. No LinkedIn. Not even a high school mention. Nobody that clean is real. I ran a reverse image search on his photo from the engagement party. It took 20 minutes and a coffee refill. And then it hit. Same face, different names, Martin Lane. Arrested in Phoenix, securities fraud. Case dismissed on a technicality, Mark Lacey, named in a civil suit in Florida, settled out of court. Victim list included 4 women and 2 retired couples. Then Mason Locke. No criminal record, but at least 3 online threads linking him to ghost companies with flash sites and disconnected numbers. I didn't sleep. I kept digging. Forums, news articles, Facebook posts. By 2 a.m., I was on the phone with a woman named Rachel from Dallas. Her voice shook when I introduced myself. "You're the 3rd person in 5 years who's called me about that man," she said. "He proposed to me. Told me he was investing my dad's retirement money. He vanished 2 days before the wedding. Took everything. 38 grand I asked her for proof. She sent me old photos, engagement announcements, a police report. I clicked through every single one. Same damn face, same Rolex, same charm. Different name each time. I sat there in the dark guest room with the sound of distant laughter still echoing from downstairs. They were toasting him right now, toasting their golden ticket. I stared at the screen. He was going to ruin them, and they were rolling out the red carpet. By the next night, my bag was already half packed, but I didn't leave, not yet. I'd printed everything. Screenshots, police reports, fake LLC registrations. The stack was thick enough to make a sound when I dropped it on the dining table. Everyone was there. Dad at the head, Evan glued to his phone, Danielle smoothing the table runner like a nervous tick. Mason leaned back in his chair, one arm draped casual over Danielle's chair. Mom hovered near the doorway, like she wanted to be anywhere else. I pushed the stack across the table. "Read it," Dad frowned. "What's this supposed to be?" "Proof," I said. "He's not who he says he is." Mason didn't even blink. "I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous." Clearly a case of mistaken identity, I pulled out the first page, mugshot of Martin Lane, dated 3 years ago. Same face, same watch, different name. Evan slammed his phone down. You show up after years and immediately try to ruin everything? I stared at him. I'm trying to save you. Dad's voice went sharp. You've always been bitter. You can't stand to see your brother succeed. Dad, Mom started, then stopped, rubbing her temples. Maybe this isn't the time. When exactly would be the time? I shot back. After he disappears with your money? Because that's what he does. It's his pattern. Mason spread his hands, calm as a monk. This is defamatory. You're hurting Danielle. You're hurting Evan. We're building a future together, and you're trying to destroy it. I flipped to the last page, Rachel's police report from Dallas. He proposed to another woman, took her father's savings, and vanished 2 days before the wedding. $38,000 gone. That's not defamation. That's history. Danielle's face went pale. This is insane. Mason, tell them. I already did, he said softly, eyes fixed on me. It's someone else. A smear campaign. People like me attract envy. People like you attract warrants, I snapped. Dad stood up. Enough. We're not doing this tonight. You already did this, I said. You mortgaged the house to fund his scam. 210 grand, signed 3 weeks ago. Silence. Evan blinked. What? Mom turned to Dad. You did what? He shot me a look that could have cut glass. Get out. I gathered my papers slowly, page by page. When it happens, remember who tried to stop it. Evan pointed at the door. Go. Seriously. You're not welcome here. I slid the stack back into my folder, zipped it, and stood. Mason leaned forward, his voice just loud enough for me to hear. You'll regret this? I met his eyes. No. You will? I just left. I landed in Chicago just after sunrise. Walked straight through O'Hare with nothing but my backpack and a bad taste in my mouth. I hadn't even made it to my front door before my phone started lighting up. Missed calls, 6 from Dad, 4 from Mom, 2 from Evan, voicemails, texts, subject lines stacked one after another. Mason's gone. Please call us. We don't know where he is. Can you help? You were right. I let it ring. I didn't want to hear them panic. I already knew how this ended. I tossed my bag on the couch, sat down, and finally listened to the messages. Dad's voice cracked halfway through the first one. We need you to call us back. Please. Mom's voice was worse. I didn't know. I should have listened. Just, please call me. Evan's text was short. You were right. Please help us. I'm sorry. I stared at it. Let it sit there while I poured coffee and opened the curtains. Then I called Rick. Rick was the one who gave me my first shot after I dropped out. Taught me how to rebuild transmissions and confidence at the same time. Retired now, but still sharper than anyone I knew. He picked up on the second ring. Told you that Mason kid was a fake. What's the damage? Couple $100 grand, house is tied up. I think they're about to lose everything. He let out a long sigh. And now they come crawling. What are you thinking? I didn't answer. He said, set the terms. You don't owe them everything just because they're family. That stuck. I spent the next 3 hours making calls. Fraud attorney, forensic accountant, a legal aid nonprofit that specialized in investment scams. I sent emails, scheduled consults, wrote out a list. I wasn't coming back empty-handed. I booked a flight. This time, no first class, just a quiet seat by the window. No part of me needed to feel superior anymore. I wasn't coming back as the dropout with something to prove. I was coming back as the one who could fix what they broke, if I chose to. When I stepped into the living room again, nobody said a word. No hugs, no welcome home, just tension. Dad looked older. His hands were shaking. Mom had been crying. Evan wouldn't even look me in the eye. Good. I set my folder down on the coffee table and sat like I owned the place. You asked for help, I said. So here's what it's gonna look like. The couch felt smaller. The whole damn room did. Maybe it was always this cramped and I just never had the nerve to take up space in it. They sat across from me. Dad stiff in his chair, Mom hugging a throw pillow like it could fix something, Evan with his jaw locked, arms crossed. I'll help, I said. But only legally. Not financially, Dad scoffed. We gave you everything? I laughed. I couldn't help it. Everything? You didn't show up to my 8th grade spelling bee. I won. You never came to a single science fair. I had projects that made the county news. You missed my graduation. Both times. You sent a card with my name spelled wrong. Mom flinched. Dad's lip curled. That's not fair. No, I snapped. What's not fair is asking me to clean up a mess you made because you believe the first smooth talker who fed your ego. Aunt Ruth stepped in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. He's not wrong. I watched it all happen. Dad shot her a look, but she didn't budge. I opened the folder on the table and pulled out the contract. My lawyer had drafted it that morning. These are the terms. I'll connect you with a fraud attorney. There's a forensic accountant I've worked with before. Solid guy. Legal aid's already expecting your call. They specialize in investment scams. I slid the contract forward. No direct money, nothing under the table, no gifts. Everything goes through a financial trustee. This is structured support, not a blank check. And no more lying. No pretending we're one big happy family when it benefits you. Evan's foot bounced under the table. You really think this is the time to hold a grudge? This isn't a grudge, I said. It's a boundary. Mom finally spoke. We're your parents. And I'm your son, I said. One you ignored until you needed something. Dad didn't look at the contract. He stared at me like he couldn't believe I was sitting in front of him. You think this makes you better than us? No, I said. It makes me smarter than you were when you handed a con man $200,000 and the keys to your house. Silence. Ruth walked over, pulled a pen from her purse, and set it on the table. I'd sign it. No one moved. I stood. You don't have to agree. But I'm not doing this your way. I let the folder sit there like a challenge, and this time, I didn't flinch. Dad stared at the contract like it might bite him. The pen sat untouched between us. I'm not signing this, he said. You're treating your own family like criminals. I didn't blink. It's either this or nothing. He opened his mouth again, but I cut him off. Page 4, bottom right. That's your next mortgage payment, due in 20 days, $12,000. You have 3 in your account. His jaw clenched. I checked what the bank gave me. You signed it over to Mason. The room went dead quiet. He looked at Mom, who wouldn't meet his eyes, looked at Evan, who was still hunched in the corner like he could disappear into the walls. Then he signed. Sloppy, quick, angry strokes. Mom took the pen next, fingers shaking. Her signature was neater, slower, sadder. Evan hesitated. I said nothing, just waited. I don't know how we got here, he said. You ignored every warning sign, I said. That's how. He looked at Danielle. She stood by the stairs with her makeup smudged and her arms wrapped around herself. Finally, Evan signed. I opened my laptop, logged into the trustee's portal, and initiated the transfer. It took 10 seconds to confirm. Funds are going to the bank directly, I said. You won't touch a dime. If you need anything else, go through the trustee. You'll get an answer in writing. Dad rubbed his face like he was waking up from a long nap he didn't ask for. Mom just whispered, "Okay." Danielle sniffled once. I didn't see it. I looked at her. You didn't want to. She flinched, but I didn't say it to hurt her, just to be clear. I closed my laptop and slid it into my backpack. No one moved. No one said thank you. No one stood up. That was fine. I opened the front door myself, sunlight hitting me like a slap. It felt good. Behind me, the house was dead quiet. No hugs, no apologies, no last-minute reach for connection. But not a single one of them could pretend I didn't matter anymore. And that was enough. 1 year later, I lived in Denver. Not a high-rise, not a loft. Just a modest craftsman on a quiet street with a wide porch and a door that closed without sticking. Far from Oklahoma, far from being overlooked. My degree finally hung where it belonged, framed center wall in my home office. I walked past it every morning like a middle finger and a reminder. No more hiding, no more proving. I spent my days running a mentorship program for underprivileged boys who wanted to break into STEM, but had no clue where to start. One of them, Trey, 16, sharp as hell, landed a full ride last month. You helped me believe I could, he told me the day his acceptance letter came in. That hit different, not like praise, like purpose. Out back, my garden was alive. Tomatoes, jalapenos, green beans, all thriving in their little rows. I kept it simple, but intentional. No overwatering, no neglect. I checked the soil every morning, like I checked myself. One text buzzed through as I rinsed my coffee mug. Evan, thanks again. Starting therapy. Hope you're doing well. I stared at it for a second, let it sit. I didn't reply, but I smiled. I poured my coffee, carried it to the desk, and sat down to finish setting up the Reynolds grant. $5,000 a year, renewable. Not for grades, for grit. For kids who got ignored at home but kept building anyway. Sons like me. I set the final terms, attached the trustee info, and clicked submit. Clean, done, no strings. I got up, watered the tomatoes, adjusted the trellis, checked the peppers for bugs. I didn't think about Oklahoma. I didn't think about my father's voice, or the kitchen that smelled like vanilla lies, or the degree I once buried behind coats. I didn't need to.